Hello and welcome to this balloon launch this evening. We've got some fantastic weather developing tonight and plenty of balloons here for us to have a look at. Just looking out from the commentary position where I'm joined by Steve Roake, who's a balloon pilot. He's going to give us a bit of an insight into the technical aspects of going ballooning. We can see around the field at the moment though that there are some of the teams are just starting to drag their balloons out, spread them out, maybe get their fans on fairly soon. Steve, you've been down to the pilot's briefing where you've had a little bit of a safety review and the weather forecast. What was the feeling this evening? Is it going to be a good flight?
Good afternoon, Andy. Nice to see so many people here at the show. Yes, you're right. I have been in with the flight director, who's the guy in charge of our safety from the point of view of flying. He says that the winds are favourable. It's a northwesterly direction, which is a good track out of here. The surface winds are only about 3 or 4 knots, with about 7 or 8,000 feet, which is a lovely, lovely direction. So hopefully what we'll do is we'll go flying, fly out over the village, past the church, and then when we get there, there's open fields afterwards. Maybe we'll get some low-level flying in and see how the flight develops.
So how far do you think the balloons are probably going to drift this evening then on the forecast that you've heard?
Well, I estimate probably most people will do about an hour. So if it's only doing 6-7 knots, that's 6 or 7 nautical miles. And a nautical mile is about 1.4 miles, I think.
Okay, cool. So they're not going to be going very far then. So nice and low, and they'll play around over the village and then find themselves a nice open area to drift off into. We've got a list here of the balloons that are attending this afternoon. I'm just looking outside the window here of the commentary box. There is the first of the balloons that started to fill with a little bit of air. Looks quite breezy at the moment. The balloon is sort of spinnaking a little bit as the inflation fan goes on. We can hear the noise in the background of the fan just starting to whir away, and the team there just beginning to rig the balloon. As the evening goes on, we would expect the wind to kind of die down and become slower and slower, which is really good for the flying activity, because you can take off in lots of strong conditions, strong wind conditions, but when you come to land, a bit like crashing a car, would you say, Steve? But without having a handbrake.
Something like that, yes. The good thing about today is the winds are expected to drop, so we don't have to rush. As you can see, the team on the right hand side of us here is just pulling the envelope out of the bag. There's plenty of teams here. There's a lot of pilots. We're all going to go fly. We just give each other a little bit of space, take our time, make sure that safety is followed at all times, and we're going to have a good flight.
Excellent, excellent. So we were seeing just there a few minutes ago that the baskets were being stood up in the field, and the pilots were kind of testing the jets of the heat from the burners, putting them up into the sky, and then they seem to be now lying on their side and attaching them to the balloon. What's the sort of the stages that they'll be going through at this stage? They'll be talking to their teams.
Well, as you can see from the green one on our left here, they've got 2 people on the mouth of the balloon holding the opening as wide as possible, and a guy's running a 4-stroke engine fan, and they're putting the cold air into the balloon. What they're trying to do is just get it to the stage.
Oh, we can actually look inside a balloon maybe.
Nicely. And if you look here, you can see the guy's wearing his gloves, which is good. He's holding the thing wide open to get the maximum air inside. There's a parachute at the top, which is going to be velcroed into place. And as the thing inflates slowly, it's going to form the round shape of a balloon.
So are we looking at the top of the balloon here, do you think? It looks like they're assembling that balloon as we're looking.
What they're going to do is get this parachute, which is on these cords, and they're going to tab it in using these velcros, so that as the cold air goes into the balloon, the thing will hold its shape. No air will escape out the top. Once the thing has formed its shape, we're happy, and the pilot's happy to continue. We'll then turn the burners on, bring the balloon upright, and then he'll release those tabs at the top, which is his mechanism for showing how he comes down in the air, as well as applying the heat to go up.
Okay, so that'll be coming up in the next few minutes, hopefully. What I need to inform everybody that's watching, from the sides of the field then is that we've got a few camera teams out running around on the field that are capturing some images that we can see of the different colours and the different balloons and the different processes that are going on. So we've been able to see somebody there nice and close up looking inside the balloon. Oh, and I wonder if that's the same balloon that we were seeing before. We can see it just starting to lift up there. Presumably they've put some hot air in there. I'm guessing we'll see this.
It's a very controlled ascent of the balloon. What you don't realise is there's a guy on the very front of it holding a rope. That's called the ground rope. In this particular one we're looking at now, the pilot has got the burner on. The balloon is filled with the air. He's now putting the hot air in, and the guy at the very far end is going to control the rate at which this balloon stands up. He's the guy in charge of the ascent of the balloon, and the people who are the crew who've been doing the fan and holding the mouth open, they're going to come round to the back of this basket and they're going to put their weight on it so that the balloon doesn't go anywhere. And the rope you see the guy holding now is attached to the vehicle.
Ah, so at the moment there's no chance of that balloon drifting off anywhere because it's got a Toyota Land Cruiser or something attached to the back of it.
That's it. The guy with the hat on's just running in. He's going to pass the crown line and clip it on. There he goes. And then the other guy to his right is just attaching what we call the scoop. This is a piece of fabric that makes sure that the wind doesn't blow the burners out whilst it's on. And here's another view of the same thing from the guy holding the mouth of the balloon. And if you look, the guy on the burners is not doing it all in one blast. He's doing controlled burns. So he's keeping control of the rate at which the balloon is coming upright.
Fantastic, and it's nice to be able to get so close up and have a look at the sort of the level of the pilot doing his thing there and the crew. Again, we can see nice close view if you're standing at the side of the arena, and you can see these balloons now starting to stand up and pop up in different places around. It's wonderful colours, wonderful bright sunshine.
Great people on these cameras. How many people you got out there?
I think 4 or 5, to be honest with you. We've got somebody that's going to run from one balloon to another as the evening goes on, get as many pictures as they can for us, so that we can share this with everybody at home.
Fantastic.
It's a very bright and colourful balloon. So how big are these balloons then? Because they seem huge.
Well, what people might not realise is all of these balloons are different sizes, and the size relates to how many people you want to fly in the basket. So some of these might be 77,000 cubic feet, and they'll carry about 3. Some could be 90,000 cubic feet, and they could carry 4. Some could be slightly smaller, and as you saw just now, there was a special shaped bottle balloon, and that's just for a sponsor.
Ah, okay, and we're looking at the moment then at you were saying that there's a guy holding onto a rope at the very top of the balloon, and he'd be running into the basket. There we are, it looks like he's run right into the basket.
He's just passing the rope over to the pilot. The pilot is going to fix it where he wants it, so it's not going to foul any of the controls during the flight. So they're just tying it up, and then what the pilot's going to do is the parachute that we talked about being velcroed in the top of the balloon, he's going to pull the other cord he has in his hand, and this will just pop the parachute away from its velcros, and then he'll put some hot air back in to pop it back into place. So if you see the circle in the top, there it goes.
Excellent, excellent. So when you referred earlier to a parachute, it's not a parachute that the pilot's going to be wearing just in case this thing goes wrong. It's actually a part of the balloon structure that you guys refer to as a parachute.
It's a control mechanism.
Okay.
We have 2 controls. We have the burner to put hot air in, and then we have this rope that goes up to this parachute-shaped hole at the top of the balloon, and when you pull it down slightly, it lets the air spill out around it, and then with less lift, you start coming down. And then when you're ready to stop that descent, you just let go of the rope, and the parachute pops back into place.
Oh, I'm just looking out across the field now. There's a couple of beautiful striped balloons there that we're getting really close up to, and it looks like one of our camera team might even be going for a flight. Oh, we can see that parachute system that you were mentioning before. The big circular disc and a little bit of air going out. So that allows you to come down when you're in the flight, and your burner allows you to go higher.
It's about time this guy just sorted out the camera position.
Fantastic. What an amazing view.
You know, we're going to get some shots here that are remarkable, because you're going to have in-flight shots.
Another balloon taking off there, bright and colourful. I hope everybody's getting a good look at these as they drift off. Give them a wave. Don't forget that they can hear you. There's no sound, there's no engine on board, just occasionally the sound of the burner. Just trying to figure out what our cameraman is picking up.
This guy's nearly ready to go, hot inflating, and when he gets to the point where he's ready to go, he's going to pull a rip line, and that rope is going to come off the balloon, and he'll be free to fly. And then his crew are going to pack away the rope, the fan, get in the car, and come and follow him to wherever he ends up.
Excellent. And there it goes, in fact. You can see that balloon now drifting off. It's going to come right over the top of the commentary position.
Sight.
Wonderful
How
evening.
can you ever be bored of a sight like that?
So these balloons have been taking off for the last few minutes now and drifting downwind from where we are. It looks like another guy just ready to go.
Here's our camera ship. Off he goes. He's got his passenger on board.
Wonderful. I'm just going to enjoy that view for a minute.
That's the bag in which the envelope will be packed away when he gets to wherever he ends up.
You're telling me that you can put all of that fabric inside that bag? That little red bag that's hanging off the side of the basket?
If you can squeeze all the air out, it will fit in that bag.
Oh, and there's a nice view looking down on another balloon which is laid out ready for the cold air to go in.
Yeah, and the reason they've laid it out is to make sure that when it's hot, when it's cold inflated, the balloon doesn't twist on the surface.
Okay, so this evening, this fly out that's taking place from this wonderful event. Many of these events take place across the country every year.
There are festivals all around the country. People go far and wide to be part of these events. I always see ballooning as a catalyst for a good time with my friends. So we always get together, go to an event and have a good time. And the great thing about being in one place for a weekend, everybody gets to fly.
I must admit, in the times that I've been around balloons, it's been a good opportunity to go visit the countryside and stay in a nice bed and breakfast and go see the pub in the high street. I'm sure there'll be plenty of the teams as they come back from their adventures will be stopping in the pub in the high street. In fact, you can see one of the teams there driving off to chase after their balloon.
You'll be in radio contact through little personal radios to the pilot and the balloon, so they can coach each other to which direction they're going and where they're likely to end up.
Excellent. Another balloon looking like it's ready to pop off into the sky. So you were saying this rope mechanism that links them together, and there it goes. It's fallen on the floor, and the balloon starts to drift into the sky. Again, if you're close to that one, give them a wave. Amazing. What an amazing evening.
And the thing the public might not understand, and I want to make this fairly clear, anybody can get involved in ballooning. What you've got to do is just go and join your local club, look them up on the web, or there's a site called the BBAC, which is the British Balloon and Airship Club. You can get involved at any level, and you never know, you might end up becoming a pilot. That's how I got involved myself. So
as long as you can help out in terms of lifting equipment around in the field or driving a car, maybe learning to read a map, these are all skills which in time develop into being useful as a pilot as you navigate yourself across the countryside.
Well, the first guy who got me involved suggested to me that at the end of the flight, when we followed his balloon and we packed it away, we'd end up in a pub for a drink. So that sounded good to me.
Yeah, I think I'll be needing a pint after we talk our way through this evening.
The funny thing is, Andy, you never know where you're going to go, and you never know the sights you're going to see. See, look, here we are over the village already. There's the church that we mentioned earlier, and hopefully in a minute we'll be able to go down low level and do some flying over the fields.
Fantastic. So these are open countryside fields. Looks like pasture land or just grass fields. The balloon drifting very low.
Around, so it's safe to do this. And if you look, the pilot's just putting small burns in, little puffs. And what he's going to try and do here is just literally clear the top of the hedge in front of us. You know, he's just managing the amount of air that's going into the balloon hot to just keep it over the hedge.
Does that allow you to?
He knows he's got it.
Does that allow you to steer the balloon then? Because I think that's one of the big questions that people always ask about hot air balloons. Is there any level of control for steering a balloon?
Well, I always tell people there's a really trick word, Coriolis effect. And what it means is, when you put hot air into a balloon, in the northern hemisphere, it tends to go up and to the right a little bit. And when you come down, gravity takes over and pulls you to the left. So what you do during your flight, not here because we're over a motorway at the moment, is you just try and vary the height up and down to get the left and right. And you find that at different levels, sometimes the air is going in a different direction. So you vary your direction in the flight by going up and down.
Ever possible to come back to where you took off from, or is it always a conclusion that you're going to end up somewhere out in a field downwind?
I'd say 90% of the time you're going to end up somewhere else. Very occasionally you get a weather condition that's called a box, where the upper winds and the lower winds are going different directions, but that's very rare.
Just coming back to the field there, we can see another balloon, Union Jack balloon, starting to put some heat in. It's laid over on its side.
Beautiful. This is an old Lindstrand 77. What a lovely looking balloon, eh? So patriotic.
Fantastic, fantastic. And just one of the fleet of balloons that have come this weekend to take part in this event. Put on a lovely show at the end of a busy day of lots of activity around the arena site here.
Well, with everything else that's been going on at the show, we're just the icing on the cake for a lot of people. So we're just delighted that the weather affords us a chance to go fly tonight, because look at it, it's gorgeous.
So you were mentioning a little bit earlier there about the British Balloon and Airship Club. They cover the national activity for the sport of ballooning, and they do training activities for people who are both crew on the ground and learning to fly. Just reading off my notes here a little bit, we've got some live footage coming in from out on board our camera ship, so I'm kind of getting distracted by that. But the BBAC provide a whole level of activities for training in terms of landowner relations, so people understanding that they're visiting somebody else's property and how to communicate. Not everybody is comfortable in seeing a balloon just drop out of the sky, as a balloonist might hope, but also training the technological side of things in terms of how balloons work and how the atmosphere works and that kind of thing. So just look at these pictures. As
if you look at this
that guy
he's using the tree to slow himself down. I think he's told his crew, his passenger, that they're going to land. So he's pulled the ropes in, out the way, nothing to conflict. He's now looking to check the field's fine. And I think he's possibly seen a landowner. And if you look, it's just going to nudge the ground, bump a couple of times, and then if he's fortunate, hopefully the camera will stay on and he can keep the balloon inflated so that his crew can see where he's landed.
Of course, obviously the countryside is a pretty big area. Everybody can see where the balloons are taking off from, but once they've scattered across the countryside, it can be quite a tricky job and quite an exciting experience.
Made a good choice tonight, because if you look at the field, that's been cut fairly recently, so he's not damaging any crops or anything like that.
And a wave.
He's waving now. I think somebody's coming in. Perhaps he might be the landowner.
What fantastic images we've managed to capture this evening, and I hope everybody...
And if you look, you can see the balloons behind him are also coming in the same direction.
Everybody is managing to share what we can see here from the commentary position. Obviously we've got a field full of balloons in front of us still, and some of those only just drifting off. I think the images we're getting fed back at the moment.
I think this chap's actually in conversation with somebody on the ground.
Yeah, they seem to be shouting to somebody, and I think that duck pond is just off the edge of the launch site here.
Yeah, so he's waving.
Beautiful.
Obviously you don't want to end up in the pond, but
now I've heard of
he's pointing now where he wants to end up, I think.
I've heard of a little thing called a splash and dash, which balloonists like to play in rivers, streams and ponds, of dipping their toes in the water while they're in mid-flight.
He seems fairly happy with everything. Perhaps he'll get permission to get his car in, and then they can deflate the balloon once he's got permission, and pack it away and get ready for the next flight another day.
Well, having looked at the weather forecast before the weekend. I'm quite pleased that we've managed to get a flight in this evening, but from what I've seen for tomorrow morning, it does look like it's going to get kind of windy, so we might be seeing the last flight of the weekend here this evening.
Well, this one here looks to be the last one in the field. I don't actually think he's going to fly. It's a spherical shaped, special shaped balloon, which I believe was found a few years ago in a barn in Germany.
Oh, wow. Giant beach ball. Who'd have thought?
And the thing that people don't realise is something that's spherical like this is very easy to fly because it reacts the way a normal balloon does. There's nothing sticking out shape-wise, and you know, it just, all the forces acting on it, the wind's blowing on it and stuff like that, they're all equalised, so it's not going to try and twist during the flight.
That's fantastic insight there. Thank you, Steve, for that, because only a pilot would know how that feels. So looking around the field then, it's starting to get a little bit quieter. There's not so many balloons here. Those that we can see are mostly drifting off to that northwest direction, out over the town, off into the countryside, and the light is starting to fade here a little bit now as the evening draws in. So I'll leave it over to yourself, Steve, to just summarise your day, your evening there.
Oh, what a fantastic evening for a flight. We've managed to get quite a few away. We're delighted everybody's come out. I want to thank you again for coming to the show. You know, shows like this rely on your support, and as a balloonist, it's just a pleasure for me to fly in front of such a big crowd. Obviously, these are these nights that we all dream about because, you know, it's possible to fly. Some occasions we can't. We have to keep safety in mind, so there are days when we have to stay on the ground, but luckily today wasn't one of them. And if you excuse me now, I'm just going to go and take a walk and go and have another look at that spherical balloon. Thanks again. See you soon, Andy.
See you, Steve. You enjoy your evening, and hopefully I can just wrap up again with a quick thank you to everybody to say thanks for coming out today, supporting this event. It's hopefully been as successful for you guys. Oh, in fact, there goes Steve wandering past the camera. Thank you, Steve. It's been a fantastic evening for us, and it's always a pleasure to come to an event like this and be able to fly our balloons in and around the area, meet the locals, wander around the stalls and see what produce has been on show and available for the day, enjoy the arena events, and then generally, as the day goes on, get our balloons out and have a chance to go fly. So thank you very much, everybody, and safe journey home.